Hey guys, I'm back here with part 4 of this series. I'm sorry for the long wait, but basically it's just going to be the same thing. We're going to be reading some stories on Reddit, and like I always say, I can't confirm if these stories are 100% true, but they're scary nonetheless, so let's go to get into it. When I was maybe 8 years old, I had a puppy that stayed outside. While I was asleep one night, I heard the pup crying, and I tried to get up to see what was going on, but I couldn't. I felt like there was two huge hands holding me down by the shoulder. I could move my legs, but not my upper half body. I opened my eyes but saw nothing. I started to lose my breath because as I was pushing up, I was choking myself. My puppy got louder and louder. Then it all stopped. I took a big gasp as I popped out and ran to the front door. I opened it to see my puppy dead on the porch. No blood, no other animals. I went to bed, and the next morning, we noticed two scratch marks on the door. We thought it was dirt, but it could never come off. This was on the reservation in the middle of nowhere, so a skinwalker was possible. Otherwise, I really don't know. I was a rookie cop when one day I received the news that my brother self-deleted himself. He was one of my older siblings, but we were very close. He died in another state, and I had a lot of guilt then about not recognizing the signs. His remains were in bad shape. By the time he was discovered, it was a close casket service. About a week after he died, I was back at work one night, and me and my partner see a man pistol whipping a woman. I jump out, and he sees me, and the foot chase was on. I was running after him, gun in hand, and he cuts through a narrow corridor under a building that leads to a courtyard in the middle. Right before I reach the courtyard, I hear, "It's okay," in my dead brother's voice. I hit the courtyard, and the guy is against the side, pointing a gun at my head, and squeezes the trigger twice. I freeze for a millisecond, and then I pistol whip him in the head with my revolver. To this day, I don't know why I didn't just shoot him or cuff him and walk back into the street and find my partner. I tell my partner about him squeezing the trigger, but not the voice. We unload the gun, a 32 revolver right there, and two bullets have strike marks on them. To this day, I still can't explain how I heard that voice. It just doesn't sit right with me. We used to live in a battered women's and children's shelter when I was young because my father was looking for us. One night, I looked into the mirror and saw a hairy demon looking back at me. I screamed and cried and ran into my mother's room, who assured me it was a normal mirror. But that night, a kind-looking man that I can only describe as a ghost appeared at the end of my bed. He was there all night, but gone when I woke up in the morning. Then the next night and the next night. He was there every night for 4 months. We never talked. He never moved, just stood guard. Then one night he woke me up from my sleep, and I'll never forget how surprised I was, because I never seen him move or talk. He said, "He's coming, get out now." So he packed up the car and left to a hotel for the night. The next morning, we went back to find out someone had broken in and gone room to room looking for someone. I never saw him again after that. I lived in an old 2-bedroom apartment for some time in my early 20s in Toronto. A few days after moving in, my roommate, who we'll call Mike, accused me of banging on the wall that separated our 2 bedrooms and pacing back and forth across the apartment at night. We disagreed that he might have been dreaming it, or it was sounds from the other apartment, as I had done no such thing. We agreed that it must have been nothing at all and left it at that, but this became a regular nightly occurrence. Shortly thereafter, I started noticing at certain times in my own bedroom the coiling smell of cheap women's perfume, mixed with a sort of damp, musty smell. Imagine an old person's clothes, left on a damp, musty basement floor near a litter box that wasn't being changed often enough, and you'll get the idea. What made it even weirder though is that I will be filled with a sudden horrible sense of foreboding a few moments before the smell would begin. Mike flaked out and left only 4 months into our 1-year lease, which meant I was left footing the rent for the entire place until I could find another roommate. I had decided to try to sleep in his bedroom shortly after he moved, to see if things would get better. The very first night I slept in his former room, I had an incredibly detailed and realistic nightmare of myself standing in a dimly lit bathroom of the apartment, and cutting my face with a large shard of glass while staring into a broken bathroom mirror. Soon after that, I started to hear loud bangs at night and the flushing of the toilet in the bathroom. Several times the hot water in the bathtub turned on full blast in the middle of the night. One of the freakier things that happened not too long ago before I moved out, I was woken up by the TV, blaring Poltergeist on City TV at 2 in the morning. At the time, that channel would always play movies late at night, but the fact that it turned on by itself at full blast, playing Poltergeist, was pretty creepy. I don't know what was going on in that apartment, but I'm proud I got away from it. I lived in a haunted apartment, but it was 2 rooms. One of the rooms was locked, and I didn't have the key to it. I only had one small room, as well as a kitchen, dining room, and a screened-in porch. There were 2 especially freaky events. One night, my girlfriend slept over, and she said she woke up in the middle of the night and saw a shadowy figure standing in the bathroom staring at her. The bathroom was right across from the locked room. Another time, I was jerked awake by the fire alarm going off, just blaring. But when I went to unplug it, the alarm stopped, and no other alarm in the building was going off. A lot of things that happened could have just been my neighbors, but the way that they happened as well was weird. I would hear knocking. It sounded like someone was tapping a spoon on a counter, coming from the downstairs apartment. It could have been my neighbor, but I'm not sure why she would do that every couple of minutes for hours on end, or in the middle of the night. I would also hear knocking on the walls. It sounded like someone was tapping their way up the wall, like they were looking for a stud. I would also hear this weird moaning/howling noise that I couldn't trace the source of again. It could have been the neighbor's dog, but it didn't sound like it was coming from her apartment. The apartment across from me had 3 tenants in 1 year. I think because it was just or as more haunted than mine. I think I had a unique way of coping. I named the ghost Pete, after a previous tenant's mail I would get from time to time, and I tried talking to him, basically treating him like a roommate that I wasn't friends with. My girlfriend was much more freaked out by the situation than me, and basically stopped coming over after a few months, so I wasn't there much anyway. When I was there, I felt like talking to Pete made the atmosphere of the place a whole much more friendlier. I also left out a sheet of paper with Pete's notes written on it, and told him if he had any problems, just write them down. I still don't know if I can quite believe in ghosts, though I find the supernatural fascinating. But that experience did push me closer to the science, doesn't know everything about the universe. My mother's favorite animal was the hummingbird. Last year, shortly after she passed away, a hummingbird came right up to me and looked at me as I was on my way to my car to go to work, like a foot away, and just checked me out for a while, and flew off to do hummingbird things. Once I got to my car, I broke down, just sat there in the driver's seat and cried. I like to think that my mom was somehow checking up on me. I know it's silly, but for that moment, I feel like she wasn't gone, and she was still watching over me. I was around 7 years old, and it was near the holidays. The house I grew up in has a downstairs and a basement, so I left my pillow downstairs after a day-long movie binge, and I went to grab it later that evening. I grabbed the pillow and looked up to see a man on the other side of the room, dressed to nines, just looking around, paying no attention to me. Weird thing was, he was entirely gray, head to toe skin color, everything gray. As I'm staring, my jaw completely wide open, completely petrified with fear, he looks up and notices me. I'm able to see him, and his jaw drops, lower than humanly normal, almost as if he was screaming at me, but without sound. He ran through the wall and disappeared. I wasn't able to go downstairs as the lights were off until I was a teenager. I never saw him again.